Good morning, everyone. The benefits team is back. We're really excited to be here to talk about annual enrollment for 2020. A few housekeeping items that I wanted to hit really fast before we get going. We're just going to talk about U.S. benefits today for 2020. So sorry if there was some confusion about talking about any international benefits, but we're real happy to be here. I've got Felicia Latif from the annual enrollment team, and I've got Rithi Patel from our design team. I'm super thrilled to be here with both. What we haven't had in the past in these is someone from our design organization, and they're a key partner of ours. They're the ones who benchmark our benefits compared to market, actually submit all of the formal recommendations for any changes or enhancements to the plans to our leadership team, and then they hand it off to the ops organization where we try to go make it happen. So I'm super thrilled to have someone from the design team here this year. Before we get going too, you should see a menu on the WebEx, and if you click it, you can see an option for Q&A. If you have questions as we're going, please submit those, and if we have time at the end, we'll be covering those in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the session. So leading up to this, you've submitted over 130 questions for today's Q&A session. We've read them all, and we've kind of created this top 10 list. And so we're going to kind of walk it down 10 to 1, and we're going to just have a brief discussion about each of these items. We may show some videos along the way to try to get your questions answered going into annual enrollment. We are doing something a little different this year. In past webcasts, we would just sit up here and talk about what the benefits are. And then you'd probably have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get a recording of that session. It had to go through legal review and closed captioning, and we just realized that was too long. And so we've done something different this year. We've created a video series. These are bite-sized, snackable videos. They're about 2 to 3 minutes each, and it's about 24 minutes of total time. And these videos are available to you now. You can access them on the Benefits Center website. You can watch them on YouTube. So there's a link to a private YouTube channel where you can watch it at home with your family. And if you have DirecTV, you can also watch that video series on channel 9548 on your DirecTV. So that's the employee channel, and those will be looping every few minutes because it's really important that you get up to speed on what's changing for next year. And then we're going to use this session to go a little bit deeper on some of that content. So before we jump into our top 10, let's talk about some tips and some resources that are available. So if we go to the next slide, I'll show you a screen print here. So yesterday on 10/7, all of the content went live on the AT&T Benefits Center site. And we're really excited about this resource for you. This is your one-stop shop for all things annual enrollment. This is where you actually physically enroll into your benefits, but it's also a great resource for where you learn about what might be changing, and then just some things that you and your family need to consider as you enroll in your benefits. So I'll call out a few things for you to check out. We have integrated checklists that we've updated for this year, which give you an idea of some of the things, maybe some conversations you need to have at home, some things you need to consider when you're selecting your different plans. So check that out. It's available on the website. We also have simplified our health plan comparison charts. So these are side-by-sides of the different plans that are available to you. And we realized in the past it's just a lot of information. So we've put a lot of time and effort into making it more streamlined and easy to use. This is also the place you can go to schedule an appointment with a benefits representative. So our vendor that we work with, who manages annual enrollment for us, makes available one-on-one appointments with the specialist to talk to you about your specific situation and what benefits may be right. And so this is a great place to go and schedule time if you need a little bit more assistance in making a selection for 2020. And just one more plug, we have text messaging that you can opt into to get updates and to make sure that when you've submitted your elections that you get confirmation that they have been submitted and you're all set for next year. So if you haven't opted into text messaging, it's a really convenient way to stay up to date on what's happening with your benefits. So I think we're ready to jump in and start talking about questions.
All right, thanks. So of the questions that we received, again, we're doing our top 10 countdown. and Care Plus made the list at number 10. So the question is, how can I enroll family members in Care Plus? We received several versions of this question and wanted to have Ben take some time to go through them.
Sure. So I think we should start by saying, what is Care Plus? And it's a really unique plan that we have available to us. It's actually over 20 years old, and it was started by our kind of predecessors from Legacy T. So well before any of us were in these jobs, they created this supplemental program, and we have not seen any company that has something similar. And what it allows us to do is expand the coverages available to you and your family using this plan, Care Plus. And it has experimental treatments, it has enhanced services for things like doula services if you're pregnant, hearing aid benefits, and we've also expanded things like physical therapy and occupational therapy for 2020 that haven't been there in the past. And this is just a really unique way that we can offer a more robust set of benefits from what exists in our base medical plans that we'll talk more about in a minute. And so who can be in this? And the answer is anyone can enroll in this plan, and you can just enroll yourself or a dependent in Care Plus without having to be in the medical plan or vision or dental. So for example, my wife works and has access to a medical plan at her employer, and so she's in their medical plan, but I've enrolled her and my son in Care Plus just because of the unique features that it offers. So I will point everybody to, there are some eligibility requirements that you can find in the SPD around how you add dependents and what documentation you need to provide. But for the most part, everyone, there's a large number of people who can be in this plan. It is free, which is something we're really excited about. So for multiple years now, we've had a $0 monthly contribution into Care Plus, and that will continue in 2020. And I've only covered just a couple services that are there. There's a dedicated microsite. You can see the URL on the screen here. You can go there and search for all the procedures that are there, and then how you go about submitting claims against the Care Plus plan. So we love this thing, but we realize it can be a little confusing to understand what it is. So we definitely want to encourage you to check out the microsite and ask your benefits advisor as you're enrolling if you have specific questions on Care Plus.
Great, thank you, Ben. Okay, next question. What's changing for dental and vision coverage? Similarly, questions with regards to, can I enroll my spouse in just dental or vision, or do they have to be in medical? So wanted to take some time to just give a quick recap on what we have for dental and vision this year, and Rithi's going to take us through that.
Sweet. So overall for both plans, not much is changing. If we start with dental first, there is one plan design change, and it's actually a benefit. So we're increasing the orthodontia lifetime limit until from $2,000 to $2,500. So that's a good thing. The contributions will see slight increases, but for the most part, they're similar. You will still have the bronze plan as a free option. So if you're only getting your cleanings, that's the plan for you. If you think you'll have a filling or a crown, you might consider the silver or gold plan. And not to be forgotten, the DHMO plan is a unique plan in that it's free, like the bronze plan, but it's a much more generous benefit level. The only limitation is that you're less flexible in which dentist to see. On the vision side, there are no changes whatsoever. So we're going to continue with that co-insurance design, which is different than the co-pay design that you were used to before. One thing I did want to point out is that co-insurance is applied after the discount. And so while you might have been paying $600, let's say, for frames before, frames and glass or lenses, it would be a lower amount that co-insurance is applied to for this year and for 2020. We'll continue to have a free bronze plan option. Even if you don't need corrective lenses, it's good to go to the optometrist once a year and check for things like if you can identify if you have glaucoma early on. The co-insurance for each of those plans are 30, 20, 10, similar to the prior years, and then they are subject, again, similar to 2019, to an annual benefit maximum, and so that's the amount that AT&T will pay. So for bronze, it's going to be $200. You don't have to mirror your medical plan enrollment, so if you have just yourself enrolled in your medical plan, you can still enroll your dependent spouse, partner, child into the both dental and vision plans, assuming that they meet the SPD requirements.
Thank you. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about DHMO?
Yeah, so Rithi hit on it a little bit, but this is a kind of good deal. It's a really good deal where if you're willing to maybe have a smaller network of providers. And so maybe you just moved, maybe your dentist, like mine not too long ago, just retired, and you're looking for a new provider. It might be a good time to take a look at the DHMO. It's free, which is a good price. I think that's a good price. But there's a lot of really rich benefits that are there. And so, there's a trade-off there. A really rich benefit at a good price, but maybe narrower set of providers. But I would encourage everybody to give that another look. And in last year, you might have remembered that we rolled out a new tool during the enrollment flow to help you. It uses your claims, and you can tell it additional information to help select the right plan for you. We are expanding that to include dental and vision this year, and so that's an enhancement that you'll see. So if you need some assistance in finding out which plan might be right for you, I encourage you to check out that tool on the Benefit Center website.
Great, thank you both. Okay, we are at number 8. Will we have Castlight options for 2020? Rithi, did you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to offer Castlight for 2020 and incentives through that platform. We have a video that will play that will summarize what your options are for 2020.
When you're at your best, we all are. We want to help you live your healthiest life, and we do that by creating programs that can help you with your health and financial well-being goals. That's why we provide all of our employees access to Castlight. Castlight gives you one secure and personalized place to access your AT&T health and financial well-being programs. It provides you personalized recommendations to help you achieve your personal goals. You can also receive rewards for staying engaged in your health and well-being. You and your spouse or partner are eligible to receive up to 5,000 points. That's about $500 in value for engaging in well-being activities such as learning about your health benefits, tracking your sleep, nutrition, exercise, and steps. You can then use those points to receive rewards. We know you're excited to get started. Look for more information in the coming months. Thanks for tuning in to learn about incentives and surcharges.
Great, nice recap there.
And I'll just say, so if you haven't seen, that was our video series. And you could see on the menu over there the different snackable videos. So if you just wanted to go watch about incentives, you can click into that and see that 1-minute video. And just one more plug on points and rewards. So if you've been earning points this year, make sure you redeem them by the end of this year, 12/31, because those points expire and you won't be able to redeem them for stuff, gift cards and other items in the Castlight store if you go into the 2020 plan year. Also, if you registered and still have your $100 registration incentive credit, make sure you use that by the end of the year as well, because you've already been taxed on it, and we want you to get the value of it.
Good points. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Rithi. All right, we're at question number 7 and saw a little highlight of that at the end of the last video. So how are surcharges determined? Lots of questions on this. How do I know what I have to pay? Dental and medical, does my spouse have to be covered with the surcharges, and who pays? What's the difference there between employee and company? So let's take a deeper dive, and Ben, can you walk us through that?
Sure. So we've had surcharges for a few years now, and I think what's important that we level set on, and one of the things that the design team looks at, is we want to align costs in the plan with the cost causers, or those situations that are driving more cost to all of us in the plan. And so we really see that in a couple different ways, and we've got 2 surcharges. So we've got the tobacco user surcharge, and then we have the spousal surcharge. So we'll just be real about it.
Right.
Tobacco users cost us more money. They have more care needs than a person who is a non-smoker. And so that's a very real cost dynamic that exists in our plans. And so I'll speak personally, I want people to not be addicted to tobacco. And we think that's the right thing for your overall health. And we want to make programs available to you that if you're ready to quit, we want to offer those at no cost to you to help you kick the habit. So you can have this tobacco surcharge waived if you take and complete a smoking cessation program that's available through the Castlight app that we just talked about. And that applies to employees and covered spouses or partners if they are tobacco users. So you will see in the annual enrollment process, there'll be a question that says, are you a tobacco user? And it's yes or no. And then if you are covering a spouse or partner, they'll ask that same question of them. Are they a tobacco user, yes or no? So please double check that election this year as you're going through. And if you are a smoker and want to avoid that surcharge, I encourage you to take the cessation program. Now let's talk about spousal surcharge. So it's the same kind of thing. Our spousal dependents, on average, cost us more actually than employees. And so we have this situation, and we see it in the data. And Rithi, I think you can talk a little bit about this. Yeah. But we have good benefits. We should probably say that more than we do. Yeah. And so when you have good benefits, people want to be on your benefits. And so what the spousal surcharge is all about is if your spouse or partner has access to healthcare coverage at their employer, but they forego that to come onto the AT&T plan, you would incur that $150 a month surcharge. If your spouse or partner does not have access to healthcare elsewhere, maybe they're not working, they're out of the workforce, then this does not apply. But if, like for example, I'll go back to home. So if my wife, who's working and has access to healthcare through her employer, if she comes onto the AT&T plan for 2020, I'm going to pay that $150 a month. And this is just a decision point that you and your family need to consider as you're making healthcare decisions for 2020. And so do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you see in the benchmarking?
Yeah, so we look at both the tobacco and spousal surcharge amounts on an annual basis and kind of compare it to large employers of our size that are doing the same thing. And so this is pretty common in the marketplace. And then the amount for the spousal surcharge even further, we look at what contributions they might be paying through their employer and line the 150 up so that if they pay our additional contribution for the dependent and then the 150, it's still in line with what they might be paying in the marketplace. So it is a financial decision with the family.
And so again, this is something that you elect during enrollment. And so just like tobacco, there will be a question in the enrollment flow about does your spouse or partner have access to coverage elsewhere if you're choosing to cover them in our plans. And so again, that's a yes or no selection. Make sure you're double checking that this year as you go through enrollment.
So that was a really great lead in to the question that was right behind it. How do the cost of benefits get decided? And we have a video that we'd like to share to recap that, and then we'll talk about that one a little bit more afterwards. So let's watch the video.
Hey guys, I'm Kate Moore and I'm on the AT&T team. You may be surprised to learn that AT&T offers benefits to over 1 million active and retired employees and their dependents each year. Put another way, roughly 1 out of every 300 people living in the US has access to benefits through AT&T. We take advantage of that huge number to negotiate the best possible prices and services in the marketplace. We aim to provide high-quality programs while keeping costs as low as possible for you and for the company. This is especially important today when we see significant increases in medical costs across the US. Our goal is to give you choices in the way you purchase your healthcare. Offering you choices creates competition amongst the medical benefits administrators, which encourages them to bring you the best value. And having choices also offers you the ability to choose the plans and programs that best fit your needs.
All right, so lots of great information again on the video series. Ben and Rithi, can you add some more color around what we just watched?
Yeah, so Kate was actually on our design team, so helps with all of the benefits that we offer. And she talked about choice being important, but we also, before we got into what choices employees have, wanted to talk through what's the same across the plans. And so regardless of if you enroll in the bronze, silver, or gold plans, you're gonna get the same access to doctors. So it's the same network. You will be covered for the same conditions. So if you need a surgery, or if you're going to start a family and use fertility benefits, it is the same coverage. And then preventive care is covered at 100%. What you do have a choice in is how much you pay via monthly contributions, and then also when you go to the doctor. So the bronze plan is going to be a lower cost option, but in return, you will have to pay a higher deductible when you do go to the doctor, higher coinsurance. On the inverse, gold is higher in that upfront cost, but the deductible and coinsurance will be lower when you do go to the doctor. The out-of-pocket limits are the same. So you'll see these plan designs shown on the screen. Very few changes from 2019. The two changes are the out-of-pocket maximums, and so those are tied to the IRS limits. As well, the gold plan deductibles increasing to $1,400, also tied to the IRS limits. I mentioned the IRS limits. We designed these three plans as HSA qualified high deductible health plans. So all of these plans allow you to open up that health savings account, which we'll talk to shortly, as a tax-free option to set aside money for then paying that higher deductible. And there is, Ben mentioned the decision support tool. We rolled it out last year for the medical plans. It'll walk you through, what your out-of-pocket total cost might be for the year, depending on the plan that you enroll with. But we thought we'd walk you through an example of what one plan would look like. So on the screen, we're looking at a member who is thinking about doing a $20,000 surgery and is enrolled in the bronze plan at an individual level. So we've assumed that there have been no other costs during the year. So when that $20,000 claim comes through, what they're responsible for is the deductible, so $3,000. The coinsurance of 30%, again in the bronze plan, is applied to the remaining $17,000. Well, that's $5,100. And so if you add that to the $3,000, that's above the $6,900 out-of-pocket maximum. So they're only subject to the additional $3,900. So their out-of-pocket will be $6,900 for the year, and then the plan will cover the remaining $13,100. Since the bronze plan at an individual level is a $0 contribution, their total out-of-pocket will be $6,900. They also, if they matched or if they contributed to their HSA, they're eligible for a $1,000 match, and so their out-of-pocket for the year, with assuming they have this one single claim, would actually be $5,900. And so the tool will walk through that, and you can see these examples, put additional services in that you are expecting to have for the 2020 year, and see what your out-of-pocket might be in all of the plans.
Yep. And that tool in the past, last year we only had 30 different services that you could model for the upcoming plan year. Like, we're gonna have a baby next year, or I'm gonna get that knee surgery. There are now over 100 procedures that you can model and put into the tool. So we're constantly looking for ways to expand that and make it more valuable to you and your family. And so there's an opportunity to give feedback on the tool via the annual enrollment survey. I make Felicia read every single one of those things, and then she tells me what you say.
Yes.
But it's really important that we hear your feedback on the tools that we make available and the process itself. So definitely encourage everyone to take the survey.
Great, thank you. So we are at number 5. We're halfway through, guys. And yay,
Yay for us.
Yes. All right, so health savings accounts versus flexible spending accounts. What are the differences? Let's talk through that more, Rithi.
Yeah, so maybe first, what's the same? So both accounts are individual accounts that you have access to at a tax-free basis. They're paid via payroll deductions and can be used for eligible medical expenses. So the health savings account, you can elect the amount that you want to set aside during annual enrollment, but one of the nice features is you can also change it throughout the year. So if something happens and you need more cash, you can lower the amount that you're taking out of your paychecks. If you decided that you wanted to increase it, you could, but that's your flexibility throughout the year. Any amount that you accrue within your account can roll over to the next year. And so if you don't spend it, that's fine. It's a way for you to save for those future expenses. If you do leave the company, it's also portable. The one caveat is that you have to build it up throughout the year. So let's say you had no account today and you decided to contribute $1,200 next year. Well, in January, you would only have, by the end of January, you'd only have $100 to use for those expenses. So moving to the flexible spending account, You also enroll during AE, but you cannot enroll during the year. The amount is available to you immediately on day one. So that same scenario, if you contributed $1,200, well, now you have $1,200 to use January 1. The funds do expire at the end of the year, so if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's not portable, so if you leave the company, even in the middle of the year, you lose anything that you've paid to date. You can open an FSA alongside your HSA. So again, we have these high deductible health plans. We offer the health savings account. If you do open an FSA and an HSA, then just know that you're limited to dental and vision expenses.
And I'll just add and nerd out from a financial perspective. HSA is the only triple tax advantage vehicle that exists in the United States. So the money goes in tax-free, it grows tax-free because you can invest these dollars. Fidelity is the administrator for the AT&T HSA, and you can invest those dollars like you do your 401k. And then if you use it on an eligible medical expense, it comes out tax-free. So that is extremely unique from a taxation perspective. And so there are many of you out there that are using the HSA as a kind of rainy day fund for later on healthcare, and you don't have to spend it in the year, and that rollover piece and the triple tax advantage piece makes it really valuable. So if you haven't participated, take a strong look at signing up for an HSA during annual enrollment.
Yep, and then moving to the amounts, right? If you enroll in the bronze or silver plans, AT&T is going to contribute to your HSA as well. The only thing we ask is that you make a minimum contribution. So we want you to participate and set aside these funds for that rainy day. So in the bronze plan, if you're an individual, AT&T will match $1,000 if you contribute at least $1,000, and if you have a spouse, partner, or a child enrolled, AT&T will match $2,000. For the silver plan, an individual gets $500, and if you have more than an individual enrolled, you'll get $1,000. The gold plan does not have the HSA max or an HSA contribution from AT&T, and these are the same from 2019.
So a couple of things before we move on. Okay. So for the HSA, we had questions around Medicare. Can you touch on that a little bit and how that works with the Medicare options?
Yeah, so as you move on to Medicare and that becomes primary, and you move out of AT&T, what we call our group plans or our metallic plans here, your eligibility to participate in an HSA may change, will likely change, and you would not be eligible for certain features of that. And so there is more information in the As You Leave the Company guide, which is a really great resource, not just for healthcare, but for a number of HR and people-related issues as you think about what comes next for you. And that's available in the life events section of the AT&T Benefits Center website, as well as on HR One Stop. It's a great resource, and if you're thinking about what comes next, I would check that out.
And then, Rithi, can you tell us where folks can find more information on HSA and FSA and anything in that financial realm?
Yeah, so Your Money Matters, the T-Space there, has a lot of tools and resources for you to learn more about how you could invest your HSA accounts. We see a lot of people not taking action there, and so definitely check out Your Money Matters.
Great, thank you. All right.
I think the stat is 75% of employees aren't maximizing their HSA. Yeah. So we have work to do here. It's a great opportunity. The company funds that are there as a match is another great opportunity. So make sure you're checking that out this year.
Yeah. And that team does workshops throughout the year, so make sure that you're following their T-Space page, and there's always more information throughout the year. It's not just an annual enrollment event.
Yep.
All right, so we've reached question number 4. What are our mental health options for this year? So we have questions around what we had last year and how does that work, and they've heard some conversations around if the administrator has changed and how it's being looked at going forward. So can we take a deeper dive on that topic as well?
Sure. Yeah, I think what's important to start by saying is AT&T wants you to bring your best self to work every day, and that is obviously your physical well-being, but it's equally your mental health and your emotional health for you and your whole family. And we're happy about some changes that we're making in this space for next year, for the 2020 plan year. And I don't want to get too technical here, but we are changing the model for how you get care with your mental health, behavioral health. And so right now, we have our medical plan administrators, our carriers, United Healthcare, Blue Cross, and then we've got what we call in this industry, and we don't like to use the terminology, but we call it a carve out. So the behavioral health is managed by a different vendor. And we've been studying the market for the last couple years and really watching this. And what we're excited about is doing something different. And so that behavioral health piece that has been managed by a different vendor, in 2020, our medical plan administrators that we're going to talk a little bit more about here in a second, they are going to care for both your physical health as well as your mental health together. We think from an employee perspective, from a family perspective, you're going to get the right kind of care, and it's going to be coordinated across the providers that you're using. And we just think that's a right change in the model. We're excited about this, and there'll be more information coming later this year and in the early part of next year that talks more about this. Another change, and we talked about Care Plus earlier, so if for autism spectrum disorder, we have covered applied behavioral analysis therapy, or ABA therapies, in Care Plus. And what we've seen, remember we talked about Care Plus, that we put experimental or expanded coverages there, and then as things become more mainstream or widely adopted, occasionally those things will move to the base medical plan as it's become kind of a best practice. So we're seeing that with ABA, and we think that's the right thing in this industry. And so what was in Care Plus is now moving to the base medical plan in 2020, and we think that that's going to be easier for you to submit claims and again kind of get that care that you and your family needs. So there's less of a kind of administrative burden on you as an employee using the benefit that we're excited about for 2020. So let's talk about EAP. Employee Assistance Program maybe has there's stigma with mental health in America these days. Maybe there's stigma with EAP. And if you think it's just a service, if you have an addiction issue and that's the only thing it's used for, then that's not right. And we need to do a better job of telling the story about what is available to you in our EAP program. And so this is to help you with stress, anxiety. If you do have a substance abuse or substance use issue, there are services there for that as well. But if I'm struggling with a coworker and having stress from that relationship, EAP can help you with that. If you're for things that you and your family are going through, there are visits available. And so we're very excited to announce that we're moving from a 5-visit model to an 8-visit model in 2020. So we're increasing the number available there, and that is per incident. And so that's not 8 per year, that is 8 per situation. So what might a situation be? So we'll go back to that troublesome coworker. So I am really annoyed with Rithi, and I want to talk to somebody about it because she stresses me out when I come to work. So I get 8 visits with a counselor or therapist to work on this issue, and then let's say next week my pet dies, and maybe my son was really attached to that pet, and I want to get him some help working through that kind of traumatic experience. I have 8 visits for my son on that pet issue that he can use a therapist or provider to talk through that problem. And that is 100% free, provided by the company.
Great.
So we want to get more usage of EAP. And we have a lot of change going on in the business right now, and we're all dealing with things, and sometimes you just need to talk to somebody. There are many times I just need to talk to somebody. And maybe you don't want to talk to a friend or a coworker or your spouse or partner about it, and you just want to get the ear of someone who's a professional and can give you some tools and resources to help. This is what this is for, and we want more usage of this. And so one of the ways that we're going to do that, and we think will be better for you and your families, is we're going to change the vendor here. And just candidly, we've gotten some feedback in the past on our incumbent vendor, and I won't name them, but there's clearly been opportunity for us to do better here, and I think that we're going to. And so we are going to install Optum, which is a part of United Health Group, as our EAP provider in 2020. And we're going to get a better network out of that, so more providers in your area, more ways to connect. You'll start to see some teletherapy and additional kind of modes for connecting to a resource instead of just sitting down face-to-face. And then there's also some concierge services, so like what does that mean? They will help you schedule appointments. And so like right now, if you say, hey, I need to talk to somebody, our current provider will say, here's 3 options, and go call them. Optum is going to go kind of a step further and say, here are 3. We would recommend this provider. Would you like me to schedule an appointment for you or for someone in your family? We just want to take some of the friction out of that process of you getting care. I'd also say there's more to come here. And what I've seen over the last year is a commitment from our most senior leaders in the mental health, behavioral health space. And I think you'll continue to see enhancements and more programs and services provided here over the coming years. So stay close to this, but kind of reiterating what I said first, we want you and your family to be healthy and happy, and that includes not just your physical health, but your mental health as well.
I might just add one more point, right? If you haven't seen someone for behavioral health issues, or you're just curious, you were going through an incident, this is a great way to even test out. So have some conversations, and Optum can actually help you and triage you into your medical carrier and then find that more long-term solution.
Yeah.
Great. So that was a really
That
good
was
lead-in. Hey, but we're on the home stretch. We're at number 3, guys.
We need a layup now.
Yeah, so we're right there. So number 3, up to what age can I cover my children? And that's a good lead-in from the last question, from incidence to benefit coverage. So can we talk about that? I think we got this question at least 3 or 4 times. So I have an adult child who's turning 26 next year. How much coverage does my child have, and when does it end?
Yeah. So we cover for all medical, dental, and vision dependent coverage through age 26. So that'll go through the end of the month in which they turn 26. So if you're born April 1, your child will get coverage through April 30th. If it's June 28th, it'll be through June 30th. The nice thing though is if you don't, you're not sure of what to do when that child does turn 26, our vendor will be sending letters out to your home about 3 months before that birth date to give you instructions on what to do next.
Great, thank you. All right, so number 3, we touched a little bit on Medicare, but lots of questions around Medicare just for all of benefits, not just HSA. So where can people find more information on Medicare?
Yeah, so Ben kind of pointed to it earlier, but the AT&T Benefits Center has a Life Changes tab, and so on that tab you can get a lot of information about retirement planning and Medicare. This video that we've got a screenshot of, we won't be playing, it will help you answer those questions like, what is Medicare? What do I need to do? How does it impact my retiree medical benefits? One thing that we did want to point out that we kind of heard some noise around is if you're an active employee and I become Medicare eligible, do I have to do anything? Because regularly you might have to enroll in Part A or Part B with Medicare. So if you're actively employed, you actually don't have to enroll in Parts A and B. But once you do retire, did want to point out that there is a penalty associated with not enrolling within a certain period. So definitely a good thing to keep in mind. And then Ben talked about the As You Leave guide as a good resource for that. And the site will give you information for when you do retire.
Great. Anything to add there, Ben?
Nailed it. No, that was good.
All right, so we've made it to the number 1 question. Thank you all for still hanging in there. For those that are just joining, this webcast is being recorded, so you can hopefully in a couple of weeks be able to play the top 10 all the way back down. So we are at number 1, medical. What administrators are available in my state, and including Kaiser? Can we talk through all of that information?
Yeah, the single most important thing that you're probably thinking about for next year, and we've seen this map before, and so we'll maybe do a really minor history lesson here. So if you go back a few years, before we introduced this idea of choice, medical plan administrator or carrier choice, all managers in the U.S., we were just at United Healthcare. That's what we got. And we've told this story before where there was opportunity for us to increase the competition with our different populations so that we can get better pricing for you and your family when you go to the doctor. And so that started with just adding Blue Cross and Blue Shield to basically compete with UHC. And you referenced competition earlier. We like competition. It lowers prices for you when you go to the doctor. And in the example that Rithi showed earlier, you see how much the company pays for many of these benefits and what we provide to you. We need to manage that cost too, because healthcare can get very expensive very quickly. And so for a couple years, we've had this two-carrier model, and there was a low-cost carrier, and so that was the provider that had the best discounts in that particular state, and it was mostly Blue Cross, because they're good at this. Not that UHC isn't good. And then there was the high-cost provider.
And then discounts, if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so discounts really just means when you go to the doctor, the providers or the carriers have negotiated certain prices. And so let's say for Texas, Blue Cross Blue Shield had better discounts so that when you go to the doctor, you will pay less because that allowable amount or what the discounted price is going to be lower. Yeah.
So the healthcare landscape has been changing, and it's our job to watch it, not yours. And so what's happened is there are other providers that are out there. And so what we're going to do in 2020 is we're going to introduce Aetna and Cigna, and I think those are pretty common names if you probably see ads for them. But these are two extremely reputable providers, just like Blue Cross and UHC. We're going to introduce them into this low-cost and high-cost model because, again, there are regions and states where they are the winners. They have the best discounts so that when you go get care, you're paying a fair rate. And so you can see the map here, and the purple states are where Aetna is the winner, the low-cost provider. And then you may need your glasses, but for the great state of Vermont, Cigna, and that is Vermont, we double-checked it, that's beautiful, I've driven through it. Cigna is the low-cost provider there. What we don't show are who comes in second, because that gets a little busy and confusing. But actually, Aetna and Cigna come in number 2 kind of a lot. And so they may not win a bunch of states, but they're bringing their better discount to the number 2 provider, and it's going to bring these costs down again for you and your family, as well as for the company. And so we are not trying to confuse anybody. And so what you'll see when you go through enrollment is we're not going to offer you all 4, because that can be a little overwhelming when you're thinking about metallics, bronze, silver, gold, which one do I pick, and which tier am I in, individual plus family, and now I've got 4. That's too much. So we're going to continue to only show the low cost and then the number 2 low-cost provider in your enrollment process. And that tool that we've talked about a few times now factors all of these changes and these selection opportunities into the experience that you're going to have starting next week when annual enrollment opens. And so if you are in an HMO, like Kaiser, which we know is very popular in certain parts of the country, we'll continue to offer Kaiser. And we will also slightly expand some of the regional HMOs that are available. So we're going to add one in Texas that we think may be of interest to some of you. And all of those HMOs, if you're eligible for them based on your zip code and where you live, will also be seen and available to learn more in that enrollment tool when you go in there. And I can't believe I didn't say this. I was supposed to say it at the beginning. So annual enrollment opens next Monday. So it opens on October 14th, which is a little later than normal. Usually we would have started this week. But we have worked with our provider to get us a little bit more time to do some things like roll out the video series and do sessions like this, the Q&A session, to get as many questions answered before you go in there and start selecting plans. That will last 5 weeks. And so you'll have until November 15th to make a selection. So that's 5 full weeks to talk with your family, read and watch the video content, and then go in there, use the tools, and make an election. So this is what you're going to see when you go in. And we're excited about what this is going to be like in 2020. And we think that as you experience healthcare, we're going to continue to find competition and ways to keep the costs down for you and for the company.
Yeah, I'll just add, right, one of the bigger concerns that might come to mind is, will my doctor be in network? So in Texas, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield remains the low-cost carrier, but UHC will no longer be provided. It's Aetna? Or Cigna. So Cigna will be provided in Texas as a second tier. But the enrollment tool has, will allow you to know if that doctor, if your current doctor is in or out of network. And right, maybe your doctor isn't in network, but you want to pay less in contributions. Well, you can use Grand Rounds or even, work directly with the carrier to find a new PCP or a new doctor. And we have services through Grand Rounds that also allow you to book, they will book the appointment for you. And so different options when you go into enrollment this year.
Yeah, and for those, disruption and doctor disruption is a very real thing, but we spend a lot of time in that data to understand the impact. And so right now, about 98% of all of the doctors are in the network, and there's very little disruption. And that's what gets us comfortable with these kind of decisions. Because we know that potentially could be an impact to you and your family. If you're in the 2% that might have a change, we know that may be challenging, and so we make these resources available to you. You can schedule an appointment to talk through your options, and there'll be additional outreach to you throughout the annual enrollment process. If you are in that 2% that has some kind of doctor disruption, we want to make sure that you get really comfortable with the plan choice for next year. And so be on the lookout for that outreach.
So
did it.
We did it. Thank you guys.
With time to spare.
So we do have time to spare. I think Grand Rounds is a perfect tie back to Castlight. Can we talk about some of the things that are offered on Castlight and where you can get some other information with regards to, I know we didn't get a ton of questions on the surveys about fertility, but want to cover Grand Rounds and Castlight and fertility a little bit further. So Rithi, can you start us off?
Sure, maybe I'll start with fertility because I think it's a good story for 2020.
Self-serving, but it's good. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, we actually carved out, so term we heard earlier, but we use a different administrator outside of our medical carriers for fertility coverage. So fertility means artificial reproductive technologies. So if you had in vitro fertilization or artificial insemination, really it's just services that help women get pregnant. And so we've carved out that benefit, and it's through a vendor called Progeny. We've offered cycles to our members, so it's a lifetime limit on the number of cycles that you get. One cycle could be a full IVF treatment. Half a cycle could be either a retrieval or a transfer, and then a fourth of a cycle could be a few IUI treatments. One cycle, on average, costs about $25,000, which is pretty pricey, right? So if you're starting to have a family, it's a large financial hurdle to face. And so we today offer 2+1 cycles, meaning you get 2 cycles. If you're not successful in getting pregnant, then you have an additional cycle at your expense. Or at your leisure, but those cycles are all subject to the deductible and co-insurance still. For 2020, we're taking away this contingency that's kind of confusing and messy and just saying you're getting 4 cycles. And so if you think about that from a lifetime limit amount, it might be up to $100,000 in coverage, again, subject to the deductible and co-insurance. And we think we're really excited about that because compared to our peers, it's well above market, which is typically at a $20,000 to $40,000 lifetime limit.
Yeah,
So
That's
it's really
great.
Great.
Yeah, and so I'll talk about Castlight, and so there's a lot of well-being activities that are there. You can track your steps and track your food and track your sleep, which are kind of the foundational building blocks of a healthy lifestyle. But there's a lot more there. So we offer a lot of ways to earn points towards those incentives, and so you can earn a lot of points by just learning about benefits. So we have articles, we have videos available. Things like Progeny, we do overviews of what that service is and where you can learn more information or maybe download the app in that Castlight digital navigation experience. And so we really view that as a place where all your benefits can come together in your pocket. It's extremely important. You may see our kind of tagline for this year, personal, powerful, and portable. We think Castlight is all three of those things. It is personal to you in the recommendations that you get. It's powerful in that it brings all your benefits together in one place, and it is in your pocket and on the go as a native mobile app that we didn't have in the benefit space until about a year ago when we launched it. So if you haven't signed up for Castlight and registered to be on that platform, we definitely encourage you to do it. It's where a lot of this information and the programs and things that we've talked about kind of come together. And then one thing that we love and we talked a lot about last year is Grand Rounds. And so if you need help finding a doctor, they have a pretty impressive algorithm that helps assign and assess doctor quality because we want you going to quality doctors. Just because someone has an MD behind their name doesn't mean they're a great doctor and would provide you the level of care that you and your family need. So it's imperative that you go to high quality doctors. They help with that, and they also have second opinions. And so if maybe you're not comfortable with a treatment plan or path that your provider has laid out for you, and you want to say, like, I just want to talk to somebody to make sure this is the right thing to do. They're telling me to have surgery. I don't know that that feels right. Or they're telling me to be on these medications. I'm not sure that's what I want or what I need. The second opinion, expert second opinion, is there to review your medical records, and Grand Rounds helps pull all that together and get it to a renowned specialist. They've gone out and contracted all across the country with experts and specialists in certain fields, and they will review your case and give you a recommendation or commentary on the treatment plan at no cost to you.
Yeah.
It's a great benefit.
Yeah, we've had it for over a year now, and based on the data that we've received, almost 70% of the time, the treatment path is actually changing.
Yeah.
And so you get a really nice quality second opinion and more information to then make that decision.
Yeah, and so just anecdotally, so there's a guy on our team who is also working on annual enrollment, and he hurt his knee, and he got a surgery plan for a particular type of ACL reconstructive surgery, and because that was the one way that this doctor he got referred to was comfortable doing it. It had a longer recovery time, and it had more potential complications, and the person just wasn't comfortable with it. And he came to me and he's like, what do I do with this? I think I need a different doctor. And it's like, well, no, what you need is a second opinion. So let's use Grand Rounds. Let's put you through the process. And they actually, based on his type of injury, recommended a different way to do that surgery and then pointed him to a different in-network provider to do the surgery in a different way. And he's doing great, had no complications, and was actually back being physically active. He had small kids, and he was back running and being able to play with his kids faster than he would have been able to be in that place with this other treatment path. So we love this thing, and we want you to download the Grand Rounds app. You can get incentives for doing so, and then use it to find care or get that second opinion if you need it.
Great, thank you both. So thank you for those that have submitted questions. Keep them coming. I think a nice first question from last year, Castlight points, we were able to start that a little early. When will new points for Castlight start in 2020?
Yeah, so if you remember, we rolled out Castlight on October 1st of last year, and so we made that kind of point accumulation year. Because it was later in the year, we didn't want to remove the points on 12/31 of 18, so we kind of let that carry over into the end of 19. So any points that you've earned from 10/1 of 18 to 12/31 of 19, need to be redeemed because as we go into a new decade, that's crazy, 1/1/2020, your point balance will reset. And you can earn points for the 2020 plan year and redeem them starting January 1st.
Great, thank you, Ben. So a couple of recap questions for Care Plus. We spent some time on it. Folks are still asking who can be covered on Care Plus. Can you give them a quick wrap up of that one more time?
Yeah, so eligible dependents can be covered under Care Plus. So that's a partner or a spouse. And so there are some, well, I would say light administrative things you need to do to prove that that person is your spouse, for example. So when I added Sarah, I had to send in some documentation. I think it was a marriage certificate, but you could also send in a joint tax return and a piece of mail that shows you live together that says, yes, this is my spouse. And now you can add her to coverage. So when I added Luke, I had to send him a birth certificate, because to prove he exists, and he does. And so he is now on Care Plus. But so when someone ages off, like with a dependent, now there's some differences in eligibility. You can't cover an aunt or a neighbor. But there's a lot more information on who can be covered on the website and then also in the SPD.
Great, thank you. So we'll take one last question from here and then you can close us out. The question that folks are still asking is around vision. Like, can you explain, is there still a second pair benefit every 2 years for vision, or did that go away?
So the second pair benefit went away. With the co-insurance model, you can actually get as many glasses as you want. The only limitation is that annual maximum benefit that the plan will pay for. And I alluded to this, it got a little confusing. So we are taking discounts from IMED and applying them to the cost of your frames and lenses before the co-insurance is applied. And so if you had a pair of glasses that might have, $200 for the lenses, frames, all in. So last year you had an allowance that maybe if you were in the silver plan, I think or not last year, in 2018, the allowance might have been $200. So then that frame was completely covered and you had to zero out of pocket. The co-insurance model first applies a discount, which we've seen generally around 50%. And so your lenses now, frames and lenses, might be $100. And then if you're in the silver plan, you're paying 20% of that. So you're paying $20 out of pocket for that one pair. And then that means that the plan is paying $80. Well, the maximum benefit for silver is $300. You could probably get 2 more glasses at that same rate. You would be paying $60, and the plan has only paid $240. And so you might actually get 4 glasses. Yeah. And so there's no limit on the number of glasses that you get. It's just a matter of how much that after discount cost is of those glasses.
We're excited about the vision plan and continue to be really excited about dental and medical. And please use the tools. So now I'm in wrap up, right?
Yes,
because
you
I
are.
got 5 seconds.
Yes, you do.
But thank you for attending today. You submitted great questions. Check out the bite-sized snackable videos that are available on Benefit Center website, on DirecTV, and make sure that you go enroll. We want everybody, our goal is to get 100% of people to go out there, go into the enrollment process, look at your options, and make an active enrollment. And you can start doing that on October 14th. And again, that ends on November 15th. And if you have questions along the way, please use the resources available to you, and we will see you next year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.